Admiral James Walker stood at the main window of Earth Defense Station Alpha, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The massive display before him showed thousands of alien ships appearing at the edge of the solar system, their metal hulls gleaming under the distant sunlight. Each ship was bigger than the largest human vessel ever built. The room around him buzzed with controlled chaos as officers and analysts worked at their stations. Red warning lights flashed across multiple screens, but nobody panicked. Years of training had prepared them for this moment. "Admiral, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Tom Wilson, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "The message is being automatically translated." Walker nodded, his face remaining calm despite the gravity of the situation. "Put it through." The air filled with a deep, commanding voice speaking in slightly mechanical English. "To the primitive species of Sol System 3rd Planet, we are the Galactic Imperial Fleet, rulers of 1,000 star systems. Your civilization has been deemed worthy of absorption into our empire. Surrender now and become part of the greatest civilization in the galaxy. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our power. You have 6 hours to respond." The room fell silent. Walker looked at the faces of his crew, seeing not fear but determination in their eyes. Humanity had suspected they weren't alone in the universe. They had prepared for this day for over a century. "Open a channel," Walker ordered, straightening his uniform. "Let's show them proper diplomatic protocol." The communication system chirped to life. Walker spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. We receive your message with interest. However, before you proceed with any hostile actions, we feel obligated to give you a warning of our own." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Run." The silence that followed was broken by confused alien chatter on the open channel. Finally, a different voice responded, this one heavy with authority. "You dare threaten the Imperial fleet? We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships." Walker smiled slightly. "This isn't a threat. It's a courtesy. Humanity has never lost a war for its survival, and we don't plan to start now. We've spent our entire history fighting ourselves, perfecting the art of warfare. If you force us to defend ourselves, you'll learn why that's important." He gestured to Communications Officer Mary Parker, who pressed a series of commands into her console. "We're transmitting historical records of Earth's major conflicts now. Review them carefully. You'll notice that every time humanity faced extinction, we emerged stronger. We fought with sticks and stones, with gunpowder and steel, with atoms and antimatter. War is in our blood." The alien response came quickly. "Your historical records show only barbarism. This proves you need our guidance. Your species is young and violent. The Empire will bring you peace." "Young doesn't mean weak," Walker replied. "And peace through submission isn't peace at all." He turned to his tactical officer. "Show them a small demonstration." Deep in the Kuiper Belt, a hidden weapons platform activated. A single missile launched, its antimatter core carefully contained. The projectile moved faster than any human weapon the aliens had detected, using technology reversed engineered from crashed scout ships over the decades. It detonated harmlessly in empty space, but the energy release made every sensor in the Imperial fleet scream warnings. "That was one missile, fired from one platform, using technology we developed in secret," Walker explained. "We have thousands more surprises waiting. The Sol system is our home, and we've spent centuries turning it into a fortress. This is your only warning. Leave now, establish peaceful diplomatic contact, and we can become friends. Stay, and you'll understand why every human child learns about the art of war before they can walk." The Imperial fleet's response didn't come immediately. Their ships held position, probably conducting emergency meetings about this unexpected situation. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never met humans before. They had never encountered a species that tried to warn them away instead of begging for mercy. Finally, the alien commander spoke again, his tone noticeably less certain. "You have 2 hours to reconsider your foolish defiance. The Empire does not retreat." Walker sighed and looked at his crew. "Sound general quarters. If they won't run, we'll have to teach them why they should have." The alarms began to blare throughout the station. Humanity's first interstellar war was about to begin, and despite being outnumbered, no one on Earth was afraid. They had been preparing for this moment since the first time humans picked up rocks to fight over food. Ambassador Marcus Wright sat in the hastily prepared meeting room aboard the neutral space station, watching the Imperial diplomats study the historical records displayed on the large screen. The aliens' expressions were hard to read, but their body language showed growing unease. "This can't be real," said the lead Imperial diplomat, his translator making his voice sound flat and mechanical. "No species could survive this level of conflict." Wright gestured to the images of World War II playing across the screen. "Not only did we survive, but we grew stronger. Each war taught us new lessons, new ways to fight, and new reasons to defend our home." The display changed to show modern combat simulations and training exercises, soldiers moving through virtual battlefields, ships practicing complex maneuvers in space, and defensive systems automatically tracking and targeting threats. "Your own records say you've only had spaceflight for 300 years, another Imperial diplomat said, his golden robes shimmering under the lights. "How could you advance so quickly?" Wright smiled sadly. "Because we never stopped preparing for war. Even in times of peace, we remembered our history. Every child learns about the great battles, the strategies, the cost of freedom. We don't glorify war, we respect it." The lead diplomat tapped his long fingers on the table. "The Empire has brought peace to 1,000 worlds. Our military might is unquestionable. And how many of those worlds fought back?" Wright asked, pulling up new data on the screen. How many had spent their entire history fighting themselves, perfecting the art of warfare? How many had already mastered nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, and antimatter containment before you arrived? The diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Their records showed most conquered species had been peaceful, focusing on art, science, or commerce. Few had any significant military tradition. "Let me show you something else," Wright said, pressing another button. The screen filled with images of Earth's hidden defenses. Automated weapon platforms disguised as asteroids. Gravity manipulation systems that could turn space itself into a weapon. Swarms of microscopic combat drones that could strip a ship to atoms. "This is only what we're willing to show you," Wright explained. "Every time we discovered a new technology, our first thought was how to use it for defense. Not because we want war, but because we understand it better than anyone you've ever met." One of the younger diplomats leaned forward. "But surely you understand the benefits of joining the Empire. Access to our technology, our trade networks, our protection." Wright shook his head. "We understand the offer. But you need to understand something about humans. We don't submit. Ever. The last time someone tried to force us to kneel, we turned our entire planet into a weapon to stop them. That was 3,000 years ago, and we've only gotten better at fighting since then." He stood up, his voice growing firmer. "I'm here because we genuinely want peace. Humanity has seen enough war to know its true cost. We're willing to trade, to share knowledge, to become allies. But we will never surrender our independence." The lead diplomat's translator crackled as he spoke quickly. "The Empire does not make alliances. We rule or we conquer. Those are the only options." "Then you leave us no choice," Wright said, gathering his documents. "We tried to warn you. We showed you our history. We revealed our defenses, all so you would understand what you're walking into." He paused at the door. "Your empire has never lost a war because you've never fought humans before. Remember, we warned you to run." As Wright left the room, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The Empire's deadline was approaching, and despite all evidence that they were facing something unprecedented, they were choosing to attack. Back on Earth, Admiral Walker received Wright's report and sighed. He had hoped diplomacy would work, that showing the Empire humanity's true nature would make them reconsider. Now they would have to demonstrate why every human child learned about the art of war alongside their ABCs. "Begin Operation Firewall," he ordered. "Let's show them why they should have listened to our warning." Across the solar system, hidden weapons platforms powered up. Earth's orbital defense grid hummed to life. And in secret bases across the planet, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment prepared for humanity's first interstellar war. The Imperial fleet's first attack came exactly as Earth's tacticians had predicted. Their massive ships moved in perfect formation, following standard Imperial combat doctrine that had worked against 1,000 other worlds. They never expected what happened next. "They've crossed the outer defense line," reported Lieutenant Wilson, his eyes fixed on the tactical display, moving exactly as planned. Admiral Walker nodded, watching the red dots that represented Imperial ships enter the kill zone. "Begin Operation Firewall. Let's show them how humans fight." The first surprise came from the asteroid belt. What the Empire had dismissed as simple space rocks suddenly came alive. Hundreds of automated defense platforms, disguised as asteroids over decades, powered up their weapons. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation suddenly became a perfect target. "Platforms Alpha through Delta, fire at will," Walker ordered. Space lit up with energy beams, missiles, and electromagnetic pulses. The Imperial shift shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, struggled against Earth's hybrid technology. Some shields failed completely. Others only partially protected their ships. The Imperial commander's voice boomed over the communication channels. "This is impossible. Your technology level cannot support such weapons." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "We warned you. For centuries, we've been recovering pieces of alien technology from crashed scout ships. We didn't just study them, we improved them." The second wave of humanity's defense revealed itself. The gravity manipulation systems, hidden in Earth's Lagrange points, activated. Suddenly, the Imperial ships found themselves fighting not just Earth's weapons, but space itself. Gravity wells appeared and disappeared randomly, throwing their formation into chaos. "Target their command ships," Walker ordered. "Show them what happens when they ignore a warning." From Earth's dark side, squadrons of small, agile fighters launched. Unlike the Empire's massive capital ships, human vessels were built for quick strikes and adaptable tactics. They darted between the larger ships, targeting weapons systems and engines with surgical precision. The Imperial fleet tried to regroup, to fall back on their centuries of military experience. But nothing in their history had prepared them for humanity's style of warfare. Their ships were designed for grand battles between massive fleets, not the chaotic, multi-layered defense they now faced. "Sir," called out Officer Parker, "they're trying to push through to Earth's orbit. Should we deploy the drones?" Walker checked the tactical display. The Imperial fleet had lost nearly 30% of their ships, but they were still pressing forward. Their determination was admirable, but it would be their downfall. "Release the drone swarms," he commanded. From hidden stations across the solar system, millions of microscopic robots activated. Each one was smaller than a grain of sand, but together they formed clouds of destructive power. The swarms surrounded Imperial ships, breaking down their hull material at the molecular level. "This is your final warning," Walker broadcast to the enemy fleet. "Withdraw now or face complete destruction. We don't want to destroy you, but we will if we must." The Imperial commander's response was full of rage and disbelief. "The Empire does not retreat. Your tricks cannot save you." "They're launching their main assault," Wilson reported. 500 ships on direct approach. Walker straightened his uniform. "Very well. Activate the solar mirror array." In orbit around the sun, enormous mirrors that had been officially listed as climate control devices shifted position. They focused the sun's energy into tight beams, turning the star itself into a weapon. Imperial ships found their shields failing under the intense heat. The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, turning their entire solar system into a fortress. The Empire's mighty fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, was being systematically torn apart by defenses they never saw coming. As the last Imperial ships retreated in disarray, Walker sent one final message. "Remember, we tried to warn you. The Empire has never faced humans in war before. Now you know why we told you to run." The day's reports showed the Empire had lost over 60% of their attack fleet. But Walker knew this was just the beginning. The Empire wouldn't accept this defeat easily. They would return with a larger force, new tactics, more weapons. But humanity would be ready. They always were. Commander Lisa Reynolds watched from the bridge of her stealth ship as the Imperial supply fleet moved through space, completely unaware of her presence. The Empire still hadn't figured out how human ships could hide so perfectly from their sensors. They were about to learn another harsh lesson about human ingenuity. "All ships in position," her tactical officer whispered, though there was no need for quiet in space. Old habits died hard. "Ready on your command." Reynolds checked the tactical display one last time. Operation Thunderbolt was about to begin, and timing was everything. "Send the signal. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta." 20 stealth ships suddenly appeared around the Imperial supply fleet. They had been hiding there for hours, using technology that the Empire had dismissed as impossible for primitive humans to develop. The Empire's escorts never had a chance to react. "Target their engines first," Reynolds ordered. "Then communications. Don't destroy the cargo ships. We need those supplies." Her fleet moved with practiced precision. Unlike the Empire's rigid battle formations, human ships flowed like water, never staying still, never presenting an easy target. Within minutes, the Imperial escorts were drifting helplessly in space, their engines cold and their comm systems dead. Back at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Walker watched the operation unfold on his tactical display. "Status report on Operation Thunderbolt. Commander Reynolds has secured the supply fleet." Lieutenant Wilson reported. "Strike teams Beta and Gamma are hitting their targets as well. The Empire's entire logistics network in this sector is being dismantled." Walker nodded with satisfaction. The Empire had never faced an enemy that struck from the shadows, that attacked supply lines instead of meeting their fleets head-on. They were learning that humans had mastered the art of asymmetric warfare millennia ago. On the captured Imperial command ship, Reynolds' engineering teams worked quickly to hack into their computer systems. The Empire's overconfidence had left their networks vulnerable. They never expected a lesser species to breach their security. "Sir," her chief engineer called out, "you need to see this. We've accessed their tactical networks. We can see everything. Fleet movements, supply routes, command communications, everything." Reynolds smiled. "Send it all to Earth Command, and prepare the next phase." The information proved invaluable. Earth's tacticians could now see the Empire's entire battle plan. They were gathering a massive fleet for another attack on Earth, but their preparations would take time. Time that humanity would use well. "Launch the next wave," Walker ordered from Earth Command. "Hit every target on the list. Show them nowhere is safe." Human strike teams appeared throughout Imperial space. They struck with surgical precision, destroying shipyards, disrupting communication networks, and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. The Empire's rigid command structure began to crack under the strain of fighting an enemy they couldn't find or predict. "Imperial High Command is in chaos," Wilson reported, reading the intercepted communications. "They've never dealt with attacks like this. Their commanders are arguing about how to respond." Reynolds watched from her ship as another Imperial facility exploded silently in space. "Send them another message," she ordered. "The same as before. Run." The Empire's response was predictable. They refused to retreat, refused to acknowledge that they might be outmatched. Their pride wouldn't let them admit that humans were fighting a kind of war they had never seen before. They're mobilizing their reserve fleets, Reynolds' tactical officer reported. Looks like they're planning something big. Of course they are, Reynolds replied calmly. They still think quantity will overcome quality. They haven't learned that humans have been winning against superior numbers since we first picked up spears. The next phase of Operation Thunderbolt was already beginning. While the Empire gathered their fleets for another massive attack, human strike teams were placing quantum bombs throughout their assembly areas. The Empire would soon learn another lesson about human warfare. We never fight fair when we can fight smart. All ships, prepare for Phase 3, Reynolds ordered. Let's remind them why they should have listened when we told them to run. The Imperial High Commander stood in his flagship's command center, watching his mighty empire crumble. Emergency reports flooded in from across Imperial space. Shipyards destroyed, supply lines cut, entire fleets trapped by human gravity weapons. The supposedly primitive humans had turned his empire's size against itself. Another communication from Earth. Sir, his aide reported nervously. They're still offering the same terms. The High Commander clenched his fists. In just 2 weeks, humans had done what no species had managed in 10,000 years. They had brought the Empire to its knees, not through superior numbers or advanced technology, but through warfare that seemed to break all the rules. Meanwhile, on Earth Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Walker reviewed the latest battle reports with his staff. Show me the Empire's current status, he ordered. The holographic display showed the Empire's territory in red, with spreading patches of blue marking human-controlled space. Their stealth ships had struck deep into Imperial territory, destroying critical infrastructure and vanishing before they could be caught. Their economy is in shambles, Lieutenant Wilson reported. Commander Reynolds' raids have destroyed 70% of their military production capability. Their remaining fleets can't even communicate properly anymore. Walker nodded. And their response to our offer? Still pending, sir, but their internal communications show growing panic. Many of their commanders are calling for immediate surrender. The Empire had never faced an enemy like humanity. Their other conquests had been straightforward, overwhelming force against inferior opponents. But humans fought differently. They turned asteroids into weapons, used gravity itself as a tool of war, and struck from shadows the Empire didn't even know existed. In his flagship, the High Commander finally made his decision. Open a channel to Earth Command, he ordered, his pride bitter in his throat. Admiral Walker's face appeared on the screen. The human looked calm, showing neither triumph nor anger. Have you considered our terms? Walker asked simply. You could destroy us completely, the High Commander said. Why offer peace now? Because that's the difference between you and us, Walker replied. You fight for conquest. We fight for survival. Now that you've learned to fear us, we'd rather have peace than destruction. The terms were simple. The Empire would withdraw from Earth's space, establish diplomatic relations instead of demanding submission, and warn others about humanity's power. In return, humans would share some of their defensive technology and help rebuild what they had destroyed. Very well, the High Commander said finally. The Empire accepts your terms. We will withdraw. As Imperial ships retreated across the galaxy, they carried stories that spread like wildfire. Tales of invisible ships that struck without warning, of weapons that turned space itself into a battlefield, of a species that had mastered war so completely that they could defeat an empire while barely mobilizing their full military. Back on Earth, Admiral Walker and Commander Reynolds watched the last Imperial ships leave the solar system. Do you think they learned their lesson? Reynolds asked. Walker smiled slightly. They learned several. Never underestimate a younger species. Never assume technical superiority means tactical superiority. And most importantly, he paused, looking at the stars where the Empire's fleet had been. When humans warn you to run, you should run. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. The Empire transformed from conquerors to diplomats, forced to deal with other species as equals. Other civilizations, hearing the stories of Earth's victory, sought peaceful contact rather than risk conflict. And humanity. They continued preparing for war while hoping for peace, knowing that somewhere out there, someone else might need to be warned. When humans tell you to run, you run. Ambassador Wright, speaking at the first Galactic Council meeting, summed it up best. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to conquer or control. We simply want to live in peace. But if anyone threatens that peace, he smiled at the Imperial representatives, who shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Well, we did try to warn you. 5 years after the Empire's retreat, the Sol system had changed dramatically. Space stations dotted the asteroid belt, now serving as trading posts instead of hidden weapon platforms. Ships from a dozen alien species moved freely through Earth's space, all of them carefully following the strict traffic lanes established by Earth Defense Command. Admiral Walker, now serving as Earth's representative on the Galactic Defense Council, stood in the observation deck of Harmony Station. The massive space station orbited at Earth's L5 point, serving as a meeting place for different species. Below him, human and alien children played together in the artificial gravity park. Quite a change from 5 years ago, Commander Reynolds said, joining him at the window. She had refused promotion several times, preferring to stay in active command of her stealth fleet. Hard to believe we were preparing for total war back then, Walker agreed. The Empire's archives showed they had never lost a single war in 10,000 years, until they met us. A group of Imperial diplomatic cadets walked past, bowing respectfully to both officers. After the war, the Empire had started sending their future leaders to Earth for training. They wanted to understand how humans thought, how they approached problems so differently from other species. Latest reports from the border regions, Reynolds said, handing over a datapad. 3 more attempted invasions of human space stopped before they started. Just showing them our battle records was enough. Walker smiled. Earth's victory over the Empire had created an unexpected peace. No species wanted to risk war with humans after seeing what they had done to the supposedly invincible Imperial fleet. Instead, they came seeking trade, cultural exchange, and military training. In the station's main conference room, Ambassador Wright was teaching a class on human history to alien diplomats. The lesson today was about the world wars, explaining how humanity's darkest moments had led to their greatest advances in peace and cooperation. The key, Wright explained to his attentive audience, is that humans never saw war as glorious. We saw it as a terrible necessity, something to be prepared for but never desired. That's why we offered peace to the Empire instead of destroying them completely. One of the alien students raised a hand. But if humans are so good at war, why don't you conquer other species like the Empire did? Wright's answer was simple. Because we understand the cost of war better than anyone. We've fought ourselves for thousands of years. We know that true victory isn't about conquest. It's about creating a peace worth protecting. Deep in Earth's military command center, the next generation of defensive systems was being developed. Not for conquest, but for protection. Humanity had learned that showing strength often prevented war better than using it. The new gravity shield design is ready for testing. Lieutenant Wilson reported to Walker when he returned to Earth, and the stealth system improvements are ahead of schedule. Good, Walker nodded. But mark them all as defensive systems. We're not looking to start fights, just end them quickly if they come to us. In orbit around Jupiter, a joint human Imperial research station studied new technologies. Former enemies now work together, combining Imperial scale with human innovation. They had learned from each other, humans gaining access to advanced technology, while the Empire learned about human creativity and adaptability. Ambassador Wright, finishing his lesson for the day, summed up humanity's new role in the galaxy. We didn't want to be warriors. We wanted to be explorers, traders, friends. But our history taught us to be ready for war so we could protect peace. Now the galaxy knows. Humans will always offer friendship first, but if you force us to fight. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew how it ended. The warning that had become famous across the galaxy. When humans tell you to run, you run. As the sun set on another peaceful day on Earth, military exercises continued quietly in the background. Humanity had learned long ago that peace wasn't just about being friendly. It was about being strong enough that no one dared to disturb that peace. They had warned the Empire to run, and now the galaxy understood why. 10 years after the Empire's retreat, Admiral Walker stood before the Galactic Council, his face grave. The massive chamber, built into the core of Harmony Station, held representatives from 50 different species. Even the Empire, now a closer ally of Earth, sat among them. "We've detected something concerning at the galaxy's edge," Walker announced, activating the holographic display. "Something that threatens all of us." The display showed a massive void in space where stars should be. At first, the Council thought it was a technical error, but the readings were clear. Something was consuming entire star systems, leaving nothing behind. "The old threat returns," whispered the Imperial High Commander, his scales pale with fear. "The reason our empire began conquering worlds in the first place. We thought they were gone forever." Commander Reynolds, now leading Earth's Special Operations Command, stepped forward. "Tell us everything you know about them. If we're going to face this threat, we need all the information we can get." The Imperial records painted a terrifying picture. An ancient species that didn't conquer worlds. They devoured them. The Empire had started as a defensive alliance against them, only becoming conquerors after the ancient enemy disappeared thousands of years ago. "How long do we have?" asked Ambassador Wright, his usual diplomatic calm shaken by the news. "At their current speed, they'll reach populated systems within 2 years," Walker replied. "But this time, they won't face divided worlds. They'll face a united galaxy." He looked at the Imperial representatives. "And they'll face humans." Earth's response was immediate. The defensive networks built to stop the Empire were upgraded and expanded. The stealth fleet, once used to raid Imperial supply lines, now patrolled the galaxy's edge, gathering intelligence on the approaching threat. In a secure command center beneath Geneva, Lieutenant Wilson, now General Wilson, coordinated with alien military leaders. "We're adapting our gravity weapons to work on a larger scale," he explained. "If they want to beat stars, we'll show them how humans use stellar power." The former Empire provided their ancient battle records, showing how the enemy had fought in the past. Humans studied these records with their usual intensity, looking for patterns, weaknesses, opportunities. They found something surprising. "They've never changed their tactics," Reynolds reported during a high-level briefing. "In 10,000 years, they'd fought the same way every time. They've never needed to adapt." Walker smiled grimly. "Then they've never faced an enemy like us. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to find new ways to fight, to turn an enemy's strength into a weakness." Earth's factories worked around the clock, building new weapons and ships. But they weren't just preparing for war. They were preparing to protect. The same technology that had helped defeat the Empire was now being used to shield vulnerable worlds. "We warned the Empire to run," Wright said during an emergency council session. "But this time, we stand and fight. Not just for Earth, not just for humanity, but for every species in this galaxy." In training centers across Earth, human instructors taught alien soldiers new ways of fighting. The Empire's rigid military doctrine was replaced with human tactical flexibility. Species that had never worked together learned to coordinate in ways their ancestors would have thought impossible. Walker watched a joint training exercise where human stealth ships worked alongside Imperial heavy cruisers, protecting ships from smaller species. "We spent thousands of years fighting ourselves," he mused. "Now we're teaching the galaxy how to fight together." The void at the galaxy's edge grew larger, but it no longer inspired only fear. Now it also brought determination. Humanity had shown the galaxy a new way. Not just how to fight, but how to stand together against any threat. We told the Empire to run because they threatened our home, Reynolds said, watching the combined fleet exercises. Now we're telling something much worse. Don't threaten our galaxy. Because humans don't just fight for Earth anymore. We fight for everyone.